Welcome to r/Entitled People, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Yay, karma! That SH head guy has no business in the medical field if he is going to treat any female patient or coworker that way. The second story. Scammers with fake cards and cops in the same hotel building. How coincidentally everything matched up. The third story. Sweet revenge on the general manager. The first story is, I knew he was a chauvinist, but wow. Trigger warning. A thinly veiled threat is made by a chauvinist is made at the end of this post. This one is kind of a doozy. My apologies for the length. I work for a small company in a medical field, and at the time we'd just taken on a whole gaggle of MDs who still had training wheels. These almost practicing doctors are called fellows, and came to work for my boss because he's a very big fish in a rather small specialist pond. The thing about these fellows is, they're unpaid at first. Important thing to note here, I have so much respect for folks who have managed to get to that stage in medicine. It's not easy getting there, but achieving something that was hard does not give you carte blanche to treat people who don't have an MD at the end of their name like they're subhuman. So the gaggle we got at the time of these events was unusual. They were all from the same geographic region. Most of the people who came in were cool and very easy to work with. No beef with them. Others though, well, they thought a caste system is a good idea, and gender equality is a mistake. My first interaction with the twit in question will tell you a lot about him. His second day on the job, bright and early, he rocks up into my cube, plops his personal laptop on top of the one I'm actively working on and says, and this is a direct quote, "I need Excel and expensive medical software, and I need it now." The arrogant clown shoe had the stones to actually pull out his phone and start playing with it, like he was going to hover and wait. I had to fight down my 2 initial responses, one of which was ow, and the other was who the fluff are you? Then I realized who he was and knew exactly how to push his buttons. I closed his laptop and said, "That's nice," and shoved the piece of junk back at him. He was issued a laptop with the software he needed on it. He just didn't like how small the screen was. And yes, the ensuing meltdown when he was told I wasn't a servant he could order around was glorious to behold. The victim in this story and I actually had a super bumpy start. I helped her with something and made the mistake of calling her a butthead when she was already embarrassed. I was being silly in an attempt to lighten things up. You haven't lived until you've been called into your office manager's office to be asked if you actually called a coworker a butthead. Once she realized I was irreverent and not disrespectful, or trying to hit on her, we became work friends. Had lunch a couple times a week. And now that the cast is introduced, here comes the good stuff. On a day I didn't think I was going to have lunch with office friend, I noticed her in a corner of the cafeteria by herself at a table. In my experience, when a girl is a special kind of upset, she can actually project a psychic field, which will repel all living creatures barring cats. Happily enough, more than one girl has informed me that I'm about as dense as a cinder block, and I cheerfully ignored the field, plonked my food on the table and asked what had happened. She jumped, started to glare, realized it was me, and then burst into tears. Her job was to take data entered by the fellows, validate it, and then add it to a database. A couple weeks before, she'd made a mistake and accidentally invalidated an entire day's worth of data. Not the biggest deal, but nobody was happy about it. That day in the cafeteria, she was crying because the twit fellow had deliberately caused the same error to happen. Kinda have to be vague here. She knew he'd done it because he told her he did. Why? Because she kept rejecting his data. He was half-aing his work and getting peeved because a female non-doctor was telling him to do it again correctly. Said she needed to be put in her place. Unfortunately, when she appealed to our boss, he said he didn't want to deal with a he-said-she-said situation, and to just figure it out. She said she was dreading going back to the office because everyone was going to be mad at her. What she didn't know was, after that first whoops, my boss had quietly asked me to make sure it didn't happen again. I wound up adding what amounted to a great big undo button that also kept track of who did what changes when. Was a version repository if anyone cares. Thus no lost time with a heaping helping of exculpatory evidence. Her face lit up like the sun, she was so relieved. Then I had an evil thought. I asked her if she could act. She quirked an eyebrow and said she'd done theater in high school. I wolfed down my lunch and told her to skip fixing her makeup. We went back up to the office and I went to the hoarder closet. My office manager didn't like throwing tech-type stuff away, and as a result there was a closet chock full of old crap, up to and including legitimately radioactive atomic clocks for a PC. I rummaged around a bit and found my boss's old dictaphone. One of those old voice recorders people used in the dark ages before text-to-speech was reliable. I handed it to the girl and told her to use the same email she used 2 weeks ago to request people re-enter the day's data, but this time only send it to the twit. We had to use BCC for that kind of email after a stalking thing went down. When he came to gloat, hit record. Happily enough, the twit didn't notice he was the only one re-entering data. Sure enough, after he resent the data, he went to gloat. The plan was for her to come get me, and then I'd beard the dragon. Read my grumpy boss in his den. I was not expecting my friend to practically sprint into my cube, white as a ghost and trembling. She actually dropped the tape recorder trying to hand it to me. When the tape recorder hit the ground, it started playing back. It's such a shame you have a poor attitude and dress like an S. You're certainly pretty enough to marry. Now, are you going to send my entry back again, or will I have to find you later? That wasn't all that was said, but I don't think Reddit would let me post it all. Lord knows I'll never forget that monologue. When my boss and the office manager saw the state of my friend, they were alarmed. More so when I told them that we need the police here right the F now. I don't swear in front of management. My lapse was forgotten after they heard what was said. He was escorted out of the building immediately, and his visa was revoked, was deported immediately. My boss's only comment after the fact was, I knew he was a chauvinist, but wow. The second story is Happy Town Hotel, Instant Karma and Justice. At the time of this story, I was accounts receivable and human resources at the Happy Town Hotel. Our hotel is very unique for a few reasons. It's the nicest hotel in its immediate area. The immediate area is somewhat infamous locally for how rough certain neighborhoods are. We have our own convention center, not just hotel ballrooms, but a full-blown convention center. While we are employed by a major hotel management company, some of you are likely employed by them. I believe that they are now the largest hospitality management group in the US. The property itself is actually owned by the city that it's in. So scene, it's another day at work. I'm in my office, being amazing as always and happily getting all the little accounts balanced and invoices sent. Phone rings. Me, Happy Town Hotel Accounting Department, where I take your money and stuff. This is Pineapples, what you want? Sweetie. Hi, my name is Sweetie. I have a charge on my account from your hotel last night, but I'm not there. I've never even been to your state. I live in Fancyland. Me, that's odd. Could you or someone with a tablet in your home possibly have made an accidental reservation here? You may have been charged when the room was held, but did not check in. Sweetie, no, we don't have a tablet. I don't have any reservation apps on my phone, and my children can't open it anyway. I proceed to get the type of card, last 4 digits of her card, confirm the charge date, and get the exact amount charged. Rather than run it through our processor, I take a shot in the dark while she's still on the phone with our POS. It has this nifty little feature where you can search using the type of card and last 4 digits. It doesn't always work so great, but when it does, it is awesome. And lo and behold, it decides to work when I try it. Me, huh, that's odd. I'm showing a matching card on a reservation that was authorized that amount yesterday, and they're still in-house. I'm taken aback here and forget that I shouldn't tell her names. Honestly, I was more talking to myself trying to figure out what exactly was going on. Mr. Dirty Dirtbag. Sweetie, I don't know a Mr. Dirtbag. Our last name is Angelface. Should I dispute this charge with my bank? Me, Miss Angelface, if you could wait, I would like to try to figure out what's going on our end first. Can I get your phone number and call you back within 2 hours? Sweetie, oh yes, that's fine. I turn to the Director of Finances, who along with anything and everything else, primarily handles our AP for his normal day-to-day. We share an office, so the exchange went pretty quickly. He has roughly 457 years of experience, so he's pretty much always my go-to for odd situations, and can give a pretty good explanation when things go awry. He agrees with me that there is no way that this could be a processing error from the bank. We pull up the reservation and can see in the transaction history that the guest actually swiped the card, meaning that we didn't manually enter it, and we didn't make a mistake by typing the wrong number, which we don't normally do, but stuff happens. I then call the room, apologize profusely, tell him that the computer malfunctioned during their check-in and deleted the card on file, and that we would need to have him re-swipe his card as soon as he could. This was a strategy to get a close look at the card. Dude comes back and he does physically have the card, and it has his name on it, but something about the card was odd. Mr. Dirtbag accepts our apologies for bothering him and goes back to his room. Now here's where it starts getting so fun that I still smile. I hate thieves. I mean really. I hate seeing innocent people like Miss Angelface get hurt, stress out, have to go through filing a chargeback, wait on their own money that they need, and the business then get hit with a fee while also adjusting revenue. I've worked in so many places where the managers didn't care and let people get away with so much shady stuff that it drove me crazy. I did not tolerate it anymore whatsoever. So as I'm at the front, I see the GM and head over to where he's at. He had seen the exchange at the front desk and asked me what it was about. I told him what happened and that I was pretty sure that Mr. Dirtbag had somehow stolen Mrs. Angelface's information and made a fake card. Remember how I said our hotel was owned by the city it was in and that we have a convention center? Well, because we are city-owned, we get a lot of cool events, like the one we had in-house at that very moment, the Sheriff's Convention. The city manager was actually right by the GM as I gave him the breakdowns on what was going on. The city manager called over a sheriff he was on a first-name basis with, who ends up asking me all kinds of questions. They go off, confer with one another, run the guy's name, and get whatever paperwork they need. And then they have built the ability to search the room. As it turns out, Mr. Dirtbag had made a bad name for himself, and had been using aliases that were linked to him. When they searched his room, they found several fake IDs, a lot of fake cards in his name, a credit card machine, and a lot of blank cards. He and his lady got to be part of an impromptu training for the convention, and even got to ride in pretty cars that had pretty lights. My favorite part about all this is, when they checked the parking lot was full of cop cars. I still do not understand what made them think that paying for their room with a stolen card was a great idea. Or, bringing in all their equipment, stolen cards, and fake IDs. I got to call back Sweetie pretty quickly, and I had a great story for her. And the last story is, today's my last day working for the hotel. I've inspired 2 other employees to quit. A bit of sweet revenge. My NA, night auditor, is constantly 45 minutes to 3 hours late without fail, and I was constantly getting in trouble for leaving because I wasn't waiting for her. This caused me to search for a job outside of the industry, and I got one. A perfect 7 to 3 full-time benefits and weekends off. After consistently being to my coworkers that I was tired of my GM's irresponsibility and accountability for his employees, I started a small SH storm. One employee, an older gentleman, agreed he was tired of dealing with something similar, and he decided to put in his 2 weeks. A younger man is actively looking for another job, and plans to be out within the next few weeks or so, providing all goes well job hunting. This leaves 1 person for overnight and 1 3 to 11 person for the entire hotel. Am I the a-hole? Maybe. Do I care? No. For months I've stayed hours past my necessary time, came in early, busted my 8, and did everything I could for my boss, who never once thanked me, but rather berated me for leaving on time, regardless of whether or not my NA was here. I was off for a few days, but today I was made aware that the NA was 3 hours late, and the other 3 to 11 person left. Nobody was here. A guest had to wait 2.5 hours to be checked in, and the state police were called. My GM, not so happy. So today's my last day. Every overly nice and genuine person that walks through that door is getting a discounted rate, and I do not give 1 F, 2 Fs, red Fs, or blue Fs. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Have a good day.